So I'm Amy Ratcliffe. I'm here today with Mark Waid on behalf of Blastoff Comics. We're going to talk about Daredevil, and he has generously let us hang out in his amazing lair. So admire the toys while you're watching.
Look, Easter eggs everywhere.
Everywhere. So yeah, Daredevil. You've been on the run since July.
Yeah.
It's been exciting times, and I'm kind of curious, what was your introduction to the character, and what appeals to you about the Man Without Fear?
Well, my introduction to the character was when I was a kid. It was one of the few Marvel comics that I bought because I was a DC boy growing up. But the thing I liked about Daredevil was that there was a character like my favorite DC characters who didn't spend a lot of time moping and whining and worrying about whether people liked him or what his emotional problem was. Daredevil would just go out and kick ass and solve problems, which I liked a lot. There's something very interesting to me about the way the senses work. If you're new here, the way Daredevil works is he's a blind attorney who was hit with radioactive waste when he was a kid, as happens, and it blinded him, but at the same time it super enhanced his senses so that he's got super hearing, he's got an incredible sense of taste, he can feel colors and shapes through touch. Well, shapes, but we can all,
right.
Whatever.
Yes.
Newsprint. All right, let's see it. Newsprint, another term that means nothing anymore. So these enhanced senses, this discrete set of superpowers that is very well defined, but at the same time has limitless potential, that also really interested me. So when I was approached to do the book, honestly, my first instinct was this is not the place for me, because for the last 10 or 12, 15 years, Daredevil has been very much a crime book.
Yeah, he's had a hard time.
It's me, exactly. But it's also been a very dark, dour, grim book. Frank Miller came along in the late 70s and the early 80s and reinvented the character and made it what it is today, because until then, Daredevil was really sort of like a second-class Spider-Man. He was a good character, but he didn't really have a whole lot of, his adventures didn't really have a whole lot of flavor of their own. So Frank comes along and he does what he does and turns it into a crime noir book, which is great. But ever since then, that's been the road that everybody else has followed. And Marvel approached me about doing it. I said, I'm interested, but I need to feel like you can let me turn the superhero dial up just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a big flamboyant, cosmic Marvel Universe book. It still should be street level, but let me play with the superhero element and
kind of balance it a little.
Yeah. Also, he's been through so many horrible things. There's been a lot of amazing Daredevil stories told in the last 20 years. It's been consistently one of the best comic books out there. But how many girlfriends can you kill? He's lost so many girlfriends. He's lost his wife. He's lost his friends. He's had his life and career destroyed over and over again. And it always becomes like the new writer will come on and go, okay, what else can I do to Matt Murdock to make his life even more miserable?
And they keep finding things.
I know, and I can't, even if I wanted to do that, I'm out of ideas. I don't know what else you can do, except make him deaf too. I don't think there's anything else you can do. So I said, you know what, let's run with that. Let's go with the idea that, all right, we acknowledge that all these horrible things have happened to him. But this is true of anyone in that circumstance. You get up in the morning and you have to choose whether or not to continue to wallow in the misery and depression and pain, or you get up one morning and you just go, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I have to start living the life I want to live rather than the life that has been imposed upon me. And that, to me, that's ultimately an act of heroism, is to get up in the morning and not worry about anything but how do I live the kind of life that I need to live to make myself happy.
Yeah, it's a brave act just to move forward.
Exactly, yeah. It's easy to, inertia is, a really easy, yeah. But I have a friend, John Rogers, who co-created Blue Beetle at DC. He also writes Leverage, created Leverage, the TV show. And he has a great saying. He's like, there is no more addictive emotion than feeling hard done by. He's right. It's like there's nothing more addictive than continuing to wallow in your depression.
Well, yeah, to walk around with the chip on your shoulder, too.
Yeah, oh, woe is me. Oh, look how miserable I am all the time. Well, oh my God.
You're a superhero.
You have these cool powers. You're handsome. You're good. You have a successful career. You get to hang out with Spider-Man and Thor. these are good things. So revel in it.
And that's something you've done. You've reinvented it, and like you've done with Flash, Superman, Legion of Superheroes. You bring the comics to a level where hardcore fans can appreciate them, but new readers can walk in. And this is a great turning point for Daredevil. But how have fans reacted? What kind of feedback have you gotten about the changes?
I have, in my entire career, I've never gotten such universally positive feedback on anything. There are still people out there who are like, I hate Kingdom Come, you suck. But Daredevil, man, we got such accolades for what we did, and to me it was roll of the dice. It was a complete gamble to me, because we were taking a hard left turn after 20 years of dark, dour, grim storytelling, and I was fully prepared for it to go really south really fast. And then somebody will go kill Foggy next month, and the cycle starts anew. And instead, no, the feedback has been phenomenal. But I credit that not specifically to what I've written, but it's that the look of the book is just so different, and it's so fresh. And what Paulo Rivera and Marcos Martin, the two artists I've been working with, have been able to do with it, to redefine how the book looks, the design of the book, the way the stories are told. If I were doing this with two newbies with no real sense of design, I don't know that we would have gotten the attention. Those guys are terrific.
So yeah, what's it been like to work with them? Do you have any specific examples of some scenes that they really added to that didn't come out quite the way you wrote, but that they brought?
Yeah, I actually got one really good example, which is that in the backup to issue 1, Marcos Martin and I did a short 10-pager about what I really just kind of wanted to be Matt and Foggy walking through New York City. I wanted to be able to explain to myself and to work out for myself, and then to show the readers why someone with these hyper-attenuated senses, how they could possibly stand living in the noisiest, smelliest, most bustling city on earth, sort of Calcutta. And what Marcos said, I had a scene where I wanted Matt and Foggy to be walking through a park and come across a violin player, a busker. And Matt picks up the violin, and then just through his incredible hearing and his sense of touch and his sense of rhythm, sort of over the course of a couple of pages, teaches himself how to play the violin. Not beautifully, not virtuoso. He's not going to be at Carnegie Hall next week, but he would.
It's not screeching.
But he can, bang out a tune. And I had that in the park because we'd had a lot of urban scenes already in that sequence. I thought there would be a nice change of pace. And Marcos calls up and he says, well, can we do this in the subway? Because that's where you'd find buskers anyway. And I said, well, yeah, but Matt, in my mind, Matt doesn't go to the subway if he can help it, because that's where the noises are the worst. That's where the congestion is the worst. That's where his radar sense is useless in the subways. And Marcos says, well, yes, but if you let me use the subway trains and the clacketa, 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 the rhythm of the trains going in the background is a sort of a visual motif and a rhythmic beat to it, then if that makes any sense, then you get something. And I said, oh, then you're sold, absolutely sold. And that turned out to be my favorite sequence in the whole thing.
I also really like the way he walked you through the city, kind of like a Family Circus style.
Yeah.
And I felt like we really got to experience how Daredevil is seeing the world and experiencing it beyond just the basic descriptions we've had. And
Paulo's great too. I mean, first issue, another good example is I opened the comic with a shot of Daredevil sort of in my script, sort of looking, but looking down on a wedding party below. And Paulo wrote back and said, well, he doesn't have to be facing them. As a matter of fact, he said, why don't we put Daredevil in a corner of a building adjacent, because that's where the acoustics would be the best. He's actually looking at the corner, his back is to us. But that's where the acoustics are the best, because the sound is coming in off those corners and funneling in. Again, wow, good. These guys, God help me when they realize they don't need me, because they're really good.